Chào mừng các bạn đã quay lại với kênh Beyond Trà Đá của Trà My và Huyền Lê. Mình là Huyền Lê ở đầu cầu Frankfurt. Hôm nay thì trước khi trò chuyện với khách mời của chúng ta ngày hôm nay thì mình giới thiệu cho các bạn một chút về thành phố mình đang đến thăm. Đấy là gọi là thành phố Fürth. Thành phố này cách Frankfurt mình không rõ là bao nhiêu nhưng mà mất khoảng 7 tiếng đi tàu, và ở gần phía Đan Mạch, tận cùng phía bắc của, không biết là có tận cùng hay chưa, nhưng mà phía bắc của nước Đức. Và đây là một cái đảo khá là xinh đẹp, có biển này, và có một cái món bánh mì rất nổi tiếng ở đây là bánh mì và tôm. Và cái thành phố này gọi là phở, gần giống như là phở ở Việt Nam. Và đây là một cái con đường rất là nhỏ xinh mà mình muốn giới thiệu cho các bạn. Và sau đây thì có thể quay lại trò chuyện với khách mời của chương trình ngày hôm nay nhé.
Cô ơi, cháu xin cốc trà đá với ạ. Cháu cốc trà đá nhé.
Chào mừng các bạn đã quay lại với kênh Beyond Trà Đá của Trà My và Huyền Lê. Mình là Huyền Lê ở Frankfurt, Đức. Welcome to Beyond Trà Đá of Trà My and Huyền Lê. My name is Huyền Lê and I'm in Frankfurt, Germany. So before we dive into today's talk, I would like to tell you a little bit of a small story about someone. Let's call him A. So A was an amazing student in school, and he was destined to have a very bright future. He wanted to study IT, but his parents wanted him to be a doctor instead. So, and you know, in Vietnam, especially in the countryside, parents can be very persuasive. And so in the end, he gave up his dream to pursue his parents' dream instead. He got himself into a medical school. He became a doctor and got a good job after graduation. And fast forward to a few years later, he started to have a depression because he's miserable at his job. Unfortunately, this is not an uncommon story in Vietnam. People abandon their dreams to pursue someone else's dream instead, or simply they were too young to know what their dream was when they had to make a decision. And then after years of study, people rather stay in their fields, even though they are very unhappy because they are afraid of changing. So that is the topic for our talk today, changing your career path. It is never too late. And we have a perfect guest for this topic today, Rebecca Chia. She has gone through this herself and is here to share with you her story. So hello, Rebecca. By the way, do I pronounce your last name correctly? Chia? Always just call you by Rebecca. So
yeah, I mean, yeah, you know me as Rebecca, so
yes. So hello, and you are one of my longest friends here in Frankfurt. We have known each other for years, and to be honest, I have always been amazed by how wise you are despite your young age. Can you share with us briefly who you are and your journey so far, and how did you end up here in Frankfurt?
yeah. So I originally come from China, and I think people always have the stereotype that Asians they're doctors or they're engineers, and yeah, I'm one of those. I came to Frankfurt in 2017, and I think 1 year later we met each other.
Yeah.
And I came here, of course, for work, as most people do. Germany is not the most interesting country. And yeah, so I have electrical engineering background, and I worked as an electrical consultant for 4 years. I studied in UK, and then after graduation I found a job in Hong Kong, so I moved there for 2 years, and 2 years later I relocated to Germany, Frankfurt, for this project. So that's how I now end up in Frankfurt.
Yeah, so you mentioned that you study in UK and you study engineering. Why do you choose to study in UK and why engineering?
Yeah, so because I mean, as I said, like I think a lot of people nowadays they look for jobs because they want future security, and if you study anything relates to, I don't know, engineering or um, what's the other, IT, yes,
Yeah.
uh, you are really secured with a job, and I mean your life can be really simple just with a computer and yourself and technology, then you're pretty good. So also because my family, like both of my parents, they are engineers, so they also kind of influenced me that like towards this engineering field, even though I also feel like actually during my bachelor's I already feel like it's not something I wanted to do, but I still took their advice and went through the study, and I also did a master degree in engineering. And even I tried so hard that I even worked 4 years in this field, but in the end I still feel like it's not something I wanted.
Yeah. So you did really give it a try because you also wanted it to work because you studied it and you spent so much time investing in it, right?
No, I think the problem is because you have to be really clear if you really like something else, or you don't like engineering, right? That's
Yeah.
a very very clear difference between these two things. Because say if you know that you don't like engineering, then change to other things might help, but maybe later you will realize, okay, I also don't like something else that the other alternative that I don't like, right?
Yeah, that's very good point. Because when you told me that you wanted to start over at the age of 27, I was a little bit also surprised. Of course, I admire you for doing so because engineering is, to be honest, a very respected profession in Germany, and you had a good job and you had a good income. So it was brave to start over, to want to change your career. uh, what exactly made you decide to do so? You mentioned that you gave engineering a good try for a few years and you know that you didn't like it. A lot of people want to change, but it's hard to actually do it. So what made you decide to finally go for it?
Because when I actually I think I did my job pretty well, and I think if I stay in the engineering field I have a very bright future. But still this inner voice from time to time just keep asking me, what if I do something else? So I don't want to hear this voice for the rest of my life, without trying it. And I know it's not like it's scary. I mean, like 27 is not so young, but also it's not that old, and you
Yeah.
will only get older if you don't try
Yeah.
now. Maybe because also at that time I was in a good position that I don't have a family. I was single, and I don't have also my parents. They don't push me to support a family, so I'm financially pretty like no burden, no these financial burden. So I was in a good position to pursue something I really want. Because if when once you are 30 and you have a family, then of course you have more things to consider when you want to make this decision.
Yeah, you mentioned the little voice in your head. I think that's very important too because I in Vietnam we also have a lot of pressure from parents and certain kind of profession that women supposed to have. For example, growing up, I kept hearing that being a teacher is very good for women because, then I would have a lot of times for my family or my kids, which I at that point of course didn't have yet. But but there was also, like you said, a little voice in my head saying that was just not something that I wanted to do. I have nothing against being teacher. My sister is a teacher herself, and I have a lot of respect for this profession. It's just I know myself. It's just not something that I will be good at, and or something I want to do in a long term. So, were you at some point scared? Because it's also a big change.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I think people are always scared of these things that they don't know, they're not sure, like something they can't see, they can't foresee. Yeah. But I think also this has something to do with my personality. Like I think I'm more like a roller coaster person. I like take risks, and to be honest, I think I prefer unknown stuff other than knowing my life has already been written, right?
Yeah,
You
but
can explore all these possibilities. I think that's something pretty charming.
yeah, that's also partly why life is interesting in a way, because we don't always know what happened to us, right?
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned that you take risks, but I also think it's calculated risks based on your personalities, and that you mentioned that you really gave it a try to decide that and to know for sure that engineering that is something that you didn't want to do. So it is calculated risk. But it's true. Most of us sometimes we are afraid of the unknown. But I think it's brave to go for a change because we regret things that we didn't do, not things that we did try. So that's what something I believe in. So did you talk to your family about it? And I know you were close to your mom. Did you tell her?
Yeah, but actually I think I told them after I made the decision. Yeah. Because when I first graduated from bachelor's, I already told them I want to study business. I'm interested in that, and doing through my university, I already started some small business, and through all these experiences, I really found that's the area I want to enter and I want to do in the future. Also, my mom, she taught me to be a person with persistence. All these successful people, they stick to
Yeah,
one thing and then they go right through it, right?
yeah.
So I think it's a very important quality. So I try to be that kind of person. That's why I try hard to find, even in the engineering field, even in something I don't like, I still try hard to be good. But yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of trade-offs in your life. Either you can be really successful and you have a very fixed life track that you want to go, and you achieve certain things in your life, or you can maybe loosen up yourself a little bit and explore other possibilities.
I heard a lot about, people talking about success, and I honestly think there's different definition of success, and it's, individual. So your definition of success is different from mine or different from someone else. For someone, being a CEO is success, but I think for me, I think it's a success that you go for what you really want to do and give it a real try. And yeah, we have a very various definition of success. So, and for people who are watching, find out what is your definition of success, and go for it. Don't base your definition of success on someone else's definition.
Exactly. I think
Yeah.
one awful thing is this peer pressure in Asia. I
Yes.
think that's in the Asian culture, that's a really awful thing.
Yeah.
Because of this peer pressure, you do things that everybody else is doing,
Yeah.
and it just doesn't make sense.
Yes, exactly. And sometimes you do things not because not because that you really want to do it, just because someone else is doing it. And with the help of social media, this peer pressure that you mentioned is getting worse and worse in Asia.
Yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
same in China. Like people, maybe referring back to what I call so-called a success. I think once you are reaching to 30, you have to get married. You have to
Yeah.
probably already have the first kid, and
Yeah.
then you need to have a car. You need to have your apartment, have a very decent job. Maybe like the hierarchy is like the top is you work for the government, something like that. That influence people who haven't really known themselves so well. So they
Yeah.
probably think, okay, that's something I wanted. But later, when you grow older and then you know yourself better, then you probably realize, okay, that's not what I truly want.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you for sharing that as well. So, we should listen to ourselves, and we should know ourselves. And when by really, being friends with ourselves, with our thoughts, and we can truly know what we want. Making any big change is difficult, and not only mentally difficult, you also have to prepare for it financially. Going back to school is expensive. You're not working, you're not earning for 2 years, and you also have to pay for school. It's expensive here as well. So how do you afford it?
So this was actually my big plan. I already started planning this really long time ago. When I was in Hong Kong, I already knew that I was gonna do another degree in finance. But then this opportunity came up to moving to Germany, so I took it. But still, I knew that one day I will do that. So I already started saving a long time ago. So basically, I financed the whole study by myself. But also, I also really appreciate my family. They also support me financially as well. So, and also now during my study, I have in Germany you can work during your study. So that's also an option to finance yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, so thank you for bringing it up, because that's, I think, such an important point to consider. If we want to change, we also have to have the means to change it, right? Imagine in your case, okay, regardless of how much you want to study, but if you cannot afford it, you just cannot change. So we also covered this topic in one of our blog posts on beyondchada.com if you're interested. So in your case, you already planned this for a long time, and you save money to be able to make it happen. So that's one point for all of you who wants to change career path. Please pay attention to this point, because it's such an important point. So moving to the next part, I think it's more also fun discussing, how is going back to school for you. What are the fun part, and what are the challenging part?
I think going back to school it's nice, but I think I was really excited before my semester started. It really started. I realized oh my God, I probably forgot about the painful experience as a student. Countless coursework and constant pressure and exams and papers, everything. It's but I think one thing I really enjoy about studying is that you get full control of your time, and you know that you're investing this time for yourself, not for your work, for your employer. It's like you gain full control of your life. I think that's something I really like. about being a student. And also it's also nice to be like with young people again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It still terrified me thinking about all these group book and exam that I had to do when I was in doing my master. Of course, there was fun part too. For example, I was in Belgium and we always, with my classmate, went for a lot of beers on Saturday. Now with COVID, that's such a distant memory, but it was also fun, right? Being with, and also student life, you have different kind of worry. Okay, you worry about finding a job in a later, but you're not so stressed out like when we're at work. I think that's my personal experience.
Yeah, true. I think, well, as a student, you have less stress that's coming out from your own performance, right? Like,
Yeah.
even if you're doing an internship, you still feel like it's like you won't be pushed to output something that is so important that people will judge you, or your boss will be angry with you. Like, this kind of pressure you don't really have,
Yeah.
because everybody expects you to just to be here to learn things. Yeah. So I think as a student, you will be taken care of, other than being the one who's responsible for things.
Yeah. So in this period when it lasts,
Yeah.
um, I know that you're a very hardworking person because you already have few internship and you even had a full-time job offer before you even graduate. So can you share some tips with people who wants a change in career path? What should they prepare and what should they expect?
I think it's always nice to plan ahead, to set your own goals and try to find ways to achieve these goals. For example, if you say you want to do a job, like maybe if you want to enter a bank, for example, but you don't know how, maybe you can check. I mean, now LinkedIn is very popular, so you can also go there and check the people who actually are working in a bank, how their resume looks like, what kind of steps did they take, because normally people will put their experiences on the LinkedIn as well. So I think it's like a good reference for you to know what kind of qualification is needed to achieve your goals. That's also I think that's pretty useful in planning careers.
Yeah, I think that's very useful advice for not only for people who wants to change in career path, but also a useful advice in general for students who is looking for a job in a certain sectors. I think that's very useful. Thank you. So this is
And maybe I can add one more thing regarding people who wants to change their career. It's always nice if you can find people with similar experience that you can talk to and learn how they did it. Because for me, it's a bit difficult. I think it was also challenging for me that I don't have anybody who I can reference. Like, it's basically nobody else has the similar experience as I did. So I have to kind of walk in a dark tunnel by myself and trying to find ways. But if you have somebody who already had this experience, then talk to them. They will provide you. I think you can learn a lot more in how to do it, or in pros and cons, like these things.
yeah. And also one thing I want to add here, building up to what Rebecca just said, is asking for help. From my personal experience, most people are very generous with their advice, especially the one who already are pretty much further in their career and a little bit more senior. They're very generous with their advice. So do reach out. Even if you don't need to know them in person, but just reach out and ask for help. I got help from people that I have never met in my real life, and we just knew through LinkedIn. So just it doesn't cost you anything. Just ask for help. And moving back to our story about changing career path, I never asked you this in person, but is it worth it? And is it as what you thought it would be? Changing, studying finance, because you have planned this for a long time.
I think you can answer for me. You know my personality. I don't regret for things.
Yes.
I mean, it's always nice to, of course, there is like pros and cons, and you can always argue the good side and the bad side. But in the end, once you make a decision, then just go with it, live with it, and don't look back.
Yes.
Just go ahead.
And yeah, and also, what I also realize is that, for example, when we are stuck in a situation and when we are unhappy in a situation, and then we know already that we're unhappy, and then when we change, then when we change already, then we shouldn't think back about the pros and cons and why we change, because there's a reason that we change. That means we are unhappy if we keep staying in the situation that we were before, right? So that's my thought.
Yeah, exactly. And also, there's always what if, right? People always assume the other alternative that they didn't choose. So I think definitely there were some hard moments. I will also doubt myself, what if I didn't do it? But then I think very quickly I stopped, like as you just said, at that time you made that decision out of something, because of something you made this decision. Probably after some time you forgot about why, but it was there.
Yeah, exactly. Because if you were happy, you would not make this decision, right? So there must be something. So any other general advice for students who might be, or people who might be a little bit confused about making some important choices in their lives, going with career path A or career path B, or if they should change or not? Just any general advice from someone who just did it.
I think, of course, it also depends on different personality. Like some people, they are in general more cautious, and some people like me, I'm more adventurous. But in general, I think if you really think of trying something new that you haven't done it before and you are scared, I don't know, just give it a try. I mean, it won't kill you, right?
Yeah.
As long as there's something that it won't kill you, then why not? I mean, life is short, but do consider the consequences thoroughly. Consider everybody around you, how your decision will impact others. Because, for example, I really appreciate the support I got from my family and from my friends. And as I also mentioned, I made that decision because I was in a good position. I don't have a family, and I don't have any responsibility to others. So I think that's also some practical consideration for people who wants to make decisions.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. So I think to sum up what you just said, I would just requote what I mentioned earlier, is that a lot of time we regret what we didn't do, not the things that we did. So if you want to try something new and you are not brave enough, then I hope that listening to this talk will help you make a decision easier, that to give you that final push to go for it. But as Rebecca mentioned, it's also important to be prepared and to to prepare to make the change, also to prepare to face the consequences that it might not be as you wanted it or you imagine it to be. But in the end, there's a reason that you want to change. So even the final destination might not be what you imagine it to be, but the process sometimes is already worth it. So thank you, Rebecca, for sharing. And for, if you have any comments, then please comment or reach out to us to our email, beyondchada@gmail.com. And if you have further questions for Rebecca, you also can reach out to us there and I will transfer it to her. And thank you and see you in the next episode.
Bye.
Bye.